Hello, and welcome to another episode of Trekkie Beyond, a Star Trek podcast. I'm Manika Pinkett.
And I'm Andrea Rose Washington. And so today is episode 3. A context is for kings. After 6 months in prison, Michael finds herself on the USS Discovery, where she quickly realizes things are not what they seem. And now we get to meet some new characters: the engineering team, which includes Tilly, who I love, the team lead, Paul, who I'm unsure of, and then the security chief commander, Ellen, who I'm just a little iffy on, and then the new captain of the Discovery, Lorca. We also run into an old team member, Saru, who's now the first mate, or the second person that comes after the captain. You know what Michael used to be, people. You know this. And now we're getting all of this in this new episode. So now let's begin discussing it, because there's a lot that happens in this episode. But first, overall thoughts. What did you think?
I am shocked, interested in learning a whole lot more. I'm surprised as well.
I am a little bit intrigued and a little angry. I'm a little angry at Starfleet right now. Like, I'm not liking them much. Because the opening scene is we see Michael is now on this like transport ship. 6 months has passed, like I said earlier, and we see her on this transport ship with other prisoners, and she's in this different uniform, I guess, to say that she's Starfleet. But everyone's saying it's her fault that 8,168 people have died. And it's not true. What did you think about that number?
I think she helped cause it, but I also think that there are other people that also are at fault for it. She's not alone in this. There's accomplices too. But it also seems as though they're, like, can we say it, giving her a second chance.
Yes. I don't know. Okay, so I guess I disagree on that part where I feel like it's her fault, because I feel like none of this sort of was her fault. The Klingon attacked her first on the vessel. He attacked first. She killed him in self-defense. He wanted a war. The Klingons wanted a war. So no matter what, they were going to attack. And her actions weren't to hurt Starfleet, they were to help Starfleet. So that's my only thing. Like, I can understand that. I agree with you with to say there's other people culpable, because Starfleet definitely should have been better to react faster than what they did when it came to actually fighting. But I really just don't believe it's her fault.
But if she didn't tell Georgiou, like, let's go over and get someone to bring back to Starfleet, get a Klingon to bring back to their ship, then I think they could have been in a different situation. There's lots of what ifs, right? But
yeah,
they could be in a different situation. Maybe the war wouldn't have kicked off as much or as fast. Who knows? And Georgiou would be alive, because if she did not leave, then she would, if she stayed on the ship.
I believe Michael was right. I believe the execution was wrong.
Okay.
So I do believe that no matter what, the Klingons were going to attack, because they want, like, the guy was itching for a war. He wanted to make a name for himself. So no matter what, he would have attacked. And no matter what, Starfleet's policy is to fire second. And so they would have still did everything that the Klingons still would have did everything they did. And before that, so many of the before they even went to the Klingon ship to like take the Klingons captain, a lot of people died from actions that still would have happened regardless of Michael's mutiny. So it's like they're blaming her for, and everything after going on the ship. I do agree with that. If they had never went on the ship, the captain probably would still be alive. Maybe Michael wouldn't have been like charged for mutiny and all that stuff. But I don't think the numbers would have changed. I honestly think more people probably would have died if they didn't go over in the ship and kill the guy and kill the head of the Klingons. But like, everything prior to them going to the Klingon ship to capture the captain there, all of that would have happened regardless, because her leaving the ship to go over to see what the artifact was, to see what was hindering all of that stuff, would have still happened. She still acted like even if it was anyone else, they either would have died or killed the Klingon themselves to survive. Like, she didn't start the war. She tried to stop it before it started. It just was bad timing. So I still just don't like how everyone is just like calling her out, like making her to seem like this was her intention. And I feel like that's how they're treating her. Like, it was her intention to kill 8,000 people. And that's not really what happened. And Saru was sort of a dick in this episode. I was like, that was not her intention. You understand that. And yet you're still talking to her like it was. What do you think?
So he also defended her. He said that she's the best Starfleet officer that he knew, that he did. So I felt as though there was
Besides
some
the mutiny.
Right.
He said
and he also told her that he was going to protect his captain more than she did, right? So I understand that. I also think that there's a whole lot. It just seems like there's an opportunity for her to relive it. Everyone wants to be part of a team in which people are following along with especially when you're in the military, you're supposed to follow your captain, your leader.
That's true.
There are ramifications when someone goes rogue. And in this case, it seems like on several times she went rogue last episode.
Oh, no, you're right. She was still wrong in what she did. Like, I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree that her mutiny was a mutiny. Like, she did try and like knock the captain out and take over. Like, I'm not negating that. I'm saying even if she didn't do that, 8,000 people still would have died because Starfleet still would not have been the person to fire first. They didn't fire first, and the Klingons still attacked. They asked for peace, and the Klingons did not care. Before the whole firing of everything, they asked for peace. Klingons didn't care. The Klingons, like, at every chance that the Klingons had a chance not to fight, they chose to fight. So my thing is, why does no one get that? They're making it very black and white when it's really shades of gray.
Okay, so Star Trek producers, if you're listening to us with a different branch, or in the beginning, we would like to know, we would like to see some alternatives. Okay.
Because it's just like, it's not so, and I get that it's the show, and I get that they're trying to find a villain in this whole story, and at this point, because the leader of the Klingons is dead, she's the villain, but it's like, it's not that black and white, Starfleet. It's shades of gray. You know it would have happened anyway.
Yeah, and I think that it's clear, and I think that's why Captain Lorca is interested in this. I'm just going to call it like unofficial
Lucius
work
Malfoy.
release. Sorry?
I said Lucius Malfoy. Because I can't see him. I just see him with the blonde wig. But sorry, keep going.
He's interested in bringing her on board to use her talents, and he understands the predicament that she was in before, but he has other visions and for like the betterment of getting this additional to high-speed technology. He wants her on the ship, even though there's lots of people on the ship that doesn't agree.
Mm-hmm. So what were your initial thoughts about him?
What do I think about him?
Yeah, like, what do you think after episode 1? What do you think about him? I'm sorry, after this episode 1, episode 3. What do you think about him?
I think there's more to meet the eye, because in the very first scene in which we meet him, there's like little specks in his eye. I don't know if you notice, in his right eye. So it makes it, I don't know, there's something more there, and there's definitely, he's deep involved in this research, not listening to other opinions from his staff. So completely different leadership than Georgiou, completely different. And it's a science vessel. So I'm intrigued. I want to learn more. It's just a complete flip-flop of leadership.
I don't trust him.
Right. That's why there's something going on.
There's something like before even the last scene, he orchestrated it all to get Michael onto the ship. Everything he did was to get Michael onto that ship. So I agree with you. Like there's something more than meets the eye when it comes to him, because he just does not, or maybe it's because I just see him as Lucius Malfoy, but like there's something about him. The actor plays those roles really well. He just plays creepy. And he even makes a little statement towards it in the beginning when he meets her, and just saying how like he has to adjust the lights slowly. That's why it's so dark in here. And he makes a little snide comment about how it also plays to the mysteriousness or something like that. So it's like he knows what he's doing, and he knows he's being creepy, and he knows he's being like a little underhanded or something, but like still trying to play like the buddy, like trying to be her savior. And I'm happy that Michael is sort of seeing through it a bit.
Oh yeah, like he offered her the fortune cookie when they were in the midst of that discussion, and immediately I was thinking about some scenes in like Law and Order where they offer like someone that they're interrogating a glass of water or a cigarette. Like, here, let me see if I can offer you something to help, like
ease you in, give you a false sense of security.
Right. That she may not have received in prison, but fortune cookie, because there wasn't really a connection there.
Yeah. So earlier offline, before we got on this, you had mentioned the difference in Michael's prison suit from everyone else's.
So Michael's prison suit is like a mustard color.
Yeah.
So I was joking, like, is mustard like the new orange? And it's weird because her suit also has the Starfleet logo. I can't really tell if that's a badge or not, but if she's like released from Starfleet, and I don't understand why she still had the logo. She shouldn't have been distinguished from all the other prisoners. So that was a little weird that she had like a special emblem and a different jumpsuit and natural hair. So
yeah, I noticed because she probably couldn't do her hair in prison, so she had to let it grow out.
She couldn't keep up on the
pixie braids.
Yeah, so natural hair. And so it's interesting to see how her hair has progressed. I think this is now our 4th or 5th style we've seen of her, from straight bob cut that she had living in on to like, when she first joined the ship, to to her pixie cut, and now natural hair, cut real short.
I liked and like disliked her uniform, because I feel like it was basically Starfleet saying, once you're one of us, you're always one of us, even if you're like in jail. So that's why her uniform almost played like it was a Starfleet uniform, but like the jail version is like, hey, you were Starfleet, but you're still in prison. So like we're distinguishing you from like the other prisoners. But at the same time, that was still sort of like putting a mark on her back, because now everyone knows that she was Starfleet.
Right. She's notorious. And I didn't realize that she's the first mutineer.
Yeah.
History.
And again, not really mutiny. It was, but it wasn't. I wish they would clear that up. But that's the hill I'm going to die on, I guess. I guess that's the dead horse I'm going to keep beating. Every time they say it, I had to pause the show so many times to be like, she was trying to save your lives. She wasn't trying to betray Starfleet. She was trying to save Starfleet. But whatever.
She was found guilty of this crime. She was found innocent. That'll be different. So.
Yeah, so it's just like, I know, it's my hill to die on. I'm sorry, people. This is just the dead horse that I can't stop beating until like she gets vindication, and then you'll see me on here screaming vindication. But we'll see. Okay, so on this episode, we also get to meet a whole new set of Starfleet people. So we get to meet the engineering crew. And so we get to meet Tilly, Sylvia, I guess her first name is Sylvia or her last name. She is Michael's new roommate, and I love her. She seems like she'd be that annoying best friend that everyone wants and loves, because she's going to be loyal. I can tell she's going to be loyal.
Can I just say that I really like seeing a character that's not as polished as the rest of Starfleet characters,
Yes.
like in the Star Trek. It's
Mhm.
nice to see like someone that's like nervous and anxious and
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm trying to decide if I want to tell you that you're sleeping on my bed. Seriously? I'm allergic to polyester. Like, I just love how she did that. I was like, oh, you sweet soul. I'm gonna protect you. Nothing bad would ever happen to her. I love her for Michael as well, because I feel like Michael tries to be Vulcan, you know? She's human Vulcan. And Tilly is human, but like not, I want to say on the spectrum, because I don't know the correct term. So I'm gonna say like she's on the spectrum. So that neither of them would have been considered normal, quotation marks, normal by like normal human standards. Like they both have something that's sort of like off about them. And I like how their offness sort of almost works together.
Oh yeah, they're like the new odd couple. And I feeling their relationship was going to grow because there's another female prisoner, and Michael wasn't asked to sleep in the same quarters with that prisoner to like get an upgraded suite with Tilly.
Well, also because Michael could have killed that prisoner, because they did attack her and she whooped their butts. But yeah, that is true. Like they didn't think to put her with another prisoner. They like, again, I feel like there's also a manipulation from the captain to sort of like butter her up as well. But we also meet Paul. And before I say what I think of Paul, what did you think of Paul? The engineering lead. Paul is the engineering lead.
Right. So I don't like Paul personally. I think Paul is one of those guys that thinks he knows it all and has something to prove, and he's not welcome and opening to like learning more about her. But I guess everyone has their guards up because of what happened before.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure there's a lot more that we're going to learn about him. I just don't gravitate to his personality. I don't like his person. I don't like him.
He's a dick.
Okay.
But so like when I first met him, like I didn't catch this the first time I watched, but I caught it the second time I watched it today. I think the reason he is, I'm hoping like in a couple more episodes he warms up to Michael, but like I feel like the reason right now that he's a dick is because he doesn't actually want to be on Starfleet. I caught this the second time, is that Starfleet co-opted his research. So he was in, like what he and his partner were researching, they were doing that independent of Starfleet. But when the war happened, his research got co-opted by Starfleet. So now he's upset because he has to research his stuff, not because of the joy of it, but because Starfleet wants to use it in their war. So I feel like it's like he says it really quickly. It's like if you look away from the scene, you'll miss it.
So maybe blaming Michael for the fact that 6 months he was not in that situation. He was with his conducting research together, and then they were split to conduct research separately in 2 different ways.
Mm-hmm. And so I feel like he is upset with her, not because of the 8,000 people who died, but because the war that everyone says that she started caused Starfleet to co-opt his research, and now he can't do it for the joy of it. He has to do it for them to use in their war. And that's what like he doesn't like about her. And so I'm like, but he's still a dick. I still don't like him. He's still rude. But I feel like out of everyone on Starfleet, Saru included, his is the only reason to truly not like her. Because, I mean, actually, no, I take that back, because she didn't start this war. The Klingons did. I will not fall into that trap, Star Trek. But let's say she did start the war because she killed the Klingon. Not the mutiny, but because she did kill the Klingon on that ship. His is the only reason, he has the only reason to sort of dislike her. If that one action started the war, he has the only reason to dislike her because of her actions that did cause the war, quotation mark, people who are listening, quotation mark. But everyone else, no. Okay, so then what did you think about the chief safety officer, or chief of security, Commander Ellen Landry?
I liked her at a moment. I saw her, I think when the prisoner transport ship landed in the bay, the whole bay. She's just matter of fact, what I think a security officer would be. I don't have like, so I think it's nice to see a female security chief in that role. That's cool. And I'm glad she's short skirt.
What?
I'm glad she's not wearing a short skirt.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I just think those skirts from the original Star Trek are just.
I mean, they had great legs, but they were not functional. They were not functional. No. So I'm on the fence about her. I haven't made a. I'm unsure if she's a soldier or if she's a free thinker. Oh, as in, like, is she just going to follow orders regardless of the consequences because it's her job to follow orders, or is she going to think for herself? And not to say that she'll disregard orders, but to like understand what those actions, like what her actions might cause. Is she going to be a blind soldier? And so at the end of the episode, you saw what she did for the captain.
Right.
What she did, like she brought over something that killed an entire ship. And she brought it over because the captain ordered her to. So I'm on the fence about her because I don't know if I can trust her to like do what's right or to do what she's told.
Right. I wasn't quite sure if we should like speed past ahead. So what I also noticed that she brought Michael and the other prisoners to like the dining hall for food, but that was with the rest of the crew there. The rest of the crew eat, not like a separate place for prisoners to eat, or even like a separate like
or bring the food to the ship or to the brig.
Bring the to their own brig, to a separate. Yes, there was so many alternatives, but it seemed like they wanted a little conflict. She wanted a little conflict to occur there. Michael and the other prisoners were not cuffed, were no longer cuffed. They were handcuffed on the transport vessel. So something else is going on there. It's like that was staged. That was a little too convenient how that all transpired to show a little torture, or maybe how just to test Michael.
Yeah, because I'm just not sure. The soldiers who don't think for themselves or don't like seem to have a conscience, I don't know how I feel about them. Because I understand you have to do what's ordered of you. But some things just, you gotta stop and think, and I don't think she does. I think she just does it blindly. I'm hoping I'm wrong because I want her to be a great character. But we don't know about that one.
The captain, she could have presented, I don't know, 26 issues with bringing that creature on board, and the captain do it or you're fired. We don't know.
That's true. That's true. There's a lot that we didn't see.
Yeah. So it seems like she's a follower, and but it's nice to see her there.
Okay, so then moving on to the episode. So now we see that the engineering team, which is random for an engineering team to go, like, or just to really just be the engineering team and one security person, to go to their sister ship that has been attacked. The USS Glenn, I think that was. And we see a Klingon on their ship, on the USS Glenn, who was a friendly for like a second.
Right.
What do you think that the Klingon was doing on the ship? Because I didn't see a Klingon ship around the area. So like, how do you think that Klingon got there?
In an earlier communication, they mentioned that the Klingons, they were close to the Klingon line, the Klingon territory. So maybe I don't know, their radar picked up on this ship. But for me, the suspicion started when I saw the bodies. The bodies were were not, it's not like they were shot or they were all like the faces were mutilated and like pulled apart.
They weren't eaten. They were destroyed. Like they weren't, it didn't look like they were eaten. It looked like they were destroyed and like torn apart and mutilated. Like, yeah.
And the faces, the bodies were stressed. The faces were mutilated. So whatever that is that's happening wasn't like an attack. I don't, there's something much bigger there. I did see blood around the Klingons. And evidently there were scratch marks on the different decks and the hulls and things like that. But it was interesting to me when I saw the Klingon use a hush. I was wondering, like, is that something that like just a common universal
like, right,
across all species?
Like I was a Girl Scout, so for our quiet it wasn't shush, it was 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. So it was like, I guess like, so I guess this is a universal.
Yes, but he ended up dying anyway. So and then there was the whole running away from the creature, but trying to access the engineering department there on Glenn so that they could get the data, the research data, which I thought was strange because how would Michael be able to just download the data? I would think that there was, anyway, I'm always thinking about how Michael's able to do what she gets away with. So there's no security there. Multi-level authentication for her to go through, and then run away from this creature, but also like using Alice in Wonderland for inspiration.
Wow, so that scene. So yeah, like, so I like that Michael was willing to sacrifice herself to help everyone else get off the ship. Like she distracted the creature so everyone else could run away and it was mad at her and come after her. But yeah, the Alice part, I think that she used that to keep her calm while she was crawling through the duct, which I think is a sort of, I think it's interesting that she would have used Alice in Wonderland.
Yes. A human, like that's, I don't know. She said that she's had the book for a while. Tilly was surprised to see a book. Yeah, it was to me, that was a step away from the Vulcan traditions, or what I would traditionally think from Vulcans. But she helped save the day, and I really liked her superhero landing into their pod. So I thought that was really cool. That was
it was one of mine too, because it was like the few times where we got to see her be a little bit more human than Vulcan. We got to see a little bit more of her human side, and even though granted it was like she was using it as a calming mantra, it was nice to see her not try and suppress her human side, because there's nothing wrong with being human. She was just raised by Vulcans after her parents died, so it's sort of just very, very interesting and I liked it. I really did like it.
Because I also found it interesting that the security chief didn't volunteer to be the decoy. Like everyone else is just interested in the data.
I wasn't gonna say that, but you know, I think it was very interesting that if you lost contact and everyone on the ship is dead, you wouldn't put more people on the ship to rescue or see what the heck happened. Very interesting.
Why didn't he just beam them out?
So they said they couldn't beam out what they needed because it was behind a protected shield. So they had to get it off the ship. And when anything ever, when like in life, people, rule of thumb from Andrea to the world, if you have to go on the ship where everyone on the ship mysteriously died to get something, it's not that important. Right. Unless it is the face of Jesus you were going to go see or whatever. Like, unless it's like the Ark of the Covenant, if it is nothing else, there is no amount of money that would ever make me go into a ship or a room or a house where every person on there mysteriously died. Right. I'm not going to go on that ship. No, not doing it. No, everyone's dead and you don't know what, and you can't. No.
And they did lose a Starfleet officer in that mission.
Mm-hmm. So no, you could not pay me enough to do that. Throw me in the break. That's my mutiny.
But then they returned, and we found out that the captain, also picked it. It's an organic spore. What do we call that creature? What's the name?
So I'm not sure. Like, I watched that part like a couple times. Like, I kept rewinding to understand what it was. Did they create that creature? Or did they accidentally pick it up and it grew because of the spores? I don't know where that creature came from. So maybe I have to go back and rewatch it. If you're listening to this and you know where that creature came from information only in the third episode, from only information in the third episode, people, from 1, 2, and 3, please let us know in the comments. Because that's very interesting, because with the spores trying to already increase light speed to get somewhere faster through organic nature, or however Paul put it with biology and science talk. It's very interesting for the for how they were going to use the spores, not for attacking, but to be able to get from one space to another space instantly to save lives, is what the captain tried to make it seem like. Seem like, not is, seem like.
Right. But like Michael said in the Geneva Conventions, like that could be ultimately used for evil, for bad, for that we're not supposed to manipulate. And that would be weird to manipulate time and distance, and yeah. But I think it was also challenging for Michael to go on this expedition without knowing what was going on. Like the meaning behind this research, and then she had that enlightening moment inside of the glass, I don't know,
enclosure,
and was able to visit other planets fairly quickly. But I can't imagine being part of that research only to get only get an idea, a glimpse of why later. That might just be part of military, about being part of a mission. Above top secret, we find out.
It's like it reminded me of that movie Army of the Dead, the one on Netflix, where you had those army people transporting that zombie to another base, and they didn't know what they were carrying, and to the point that it killed them all because they didn't know what they were doing. They just said, "Oh, simple transport." It's like, it's a need to know. Well, maybe they needed to know that if they ever got into an accident with it,
right,
leave the convoy and run.
right.
So it reminded me of that. It's like, sometimes I get that some things are a need to know, but maybe this was a need to know.
Right, because then otherwise, couldn't that creature then jump to another place?
Yeah.
If it has talents then or abilities, it should be able to escape. So, well, we'll find out.
Yeah, because I did mention this a little bit earlier. My bad. The captain has brought the creature onto the USS Discovery. And so now a creature that murdered an entire ship is on the USS Discovery, which, let's talk about the fact that everyone hates that Michael's there because they blame her for 8,186 deaths. And the captain brings on the creature that killed an entire Klingon, I guess, and Discovery, and not Discovery, Starfleet ship, and you brought that onto the ship without telling anyone except the chief security officer. Like, that just seems so suspect.
Absolutely. And this is a new Starfleet vessel, so he thinks that because they have more modern technology, they disclosed earlier that there's no scratches in the hull, so they think it's a new ship and a new science vessel, that they can keep this organic creature more secure than the other ship, and so.
Well, see, my thing is I don't know So this might be my conspiracy theorist mind going, I don't think he was supposed to save the creature, because he made it seem like he blew it up, because the only person who knew he brought it onto the ship was the chief security officer, but no one else, everyone else thinks that it blew up. That's the way they made it seem.
Right. It's like a mission within a mission. So he
Yeah.
had keeping something up. He's not disclosing everything to his crew.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing this isolated research of the environment and trying to, I guess, figure out now the research results from USS Glenn, let alone the captain might be doing his own research.
And for what reason? And it almost seems like he's keeping it from Starfleet, because why else does he, like, so so many suspect things happening in this episode, a whole new can of worms or spores.
So speaking of captain, did you notice the furry creatures inside of his office area?
I did not.
Okay, so those furry creatures, it's just like a ball of fur. Those furry creatures are also in the original Star Trek. And
the thingies that got brought back to life from a Star Trek movie. You know, the one when they put Khan's blood into that little dead furry thingy and it came back to life?
Yeah.
Okay, I have to go back and watch to see the little furry thingy. Okay, that's sort of cool. They kept it through like all the Star Treks then, because it was in the first. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So even for those remind me of, is it Gremlins? They're like more to meet the eye. So this might be part of his personality. I think there's more.
Oh, that's a nice little insight into it. It could be to where we think they're cute and cuddly on the outside, but on the inside,
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so before we get to our final thoughts, what overall, I just have to talk about this one character. We touched on it earlier, but we didn't really get into this character, Saru. How are we feeling about Saru?
I like him more.
What? Okay, everyone can have their opinion, even if they're wrong. I mean, I'm wrong on the mutiny part, but it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
The moment he said, "I will protect my captain more than you did," I was like, "Oh no, he didn't. Oh no, he didn't."
Oh, you like that he has a little bit of sass now?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's important. And he's the new number one. And he knows it. He gave her the evil eye when she went to the bridge and turned his chair away. Yeah, he got a little attitude.
I am not liking him because I understand what Michael was doing, and I get that it was wrong. I get that her intentions were right. The actions she took were wrong, but she did not cause the deaths of 8,000 people. Maybe like 3,000, but not 8,000. I felt like if anyone else should have understood that was Saru. And he's still, even though he did like say stand up for her, I feel like he kept giving her backhanded compliments throughout everything, when it was just like, she didn't intentionally try to do anything to harm Starfleet. Like, that wasn't her intention. And regardless of the fact that she broke the rules, the fact that you won't even admit that, sort of, without sort of still insulting her, it's like, really? You're already gonna hit her when she's down? She's already being humble as crap. She already knows, she already knows, like, she accepted her fate. She wasn't coming to you to try and get out of it. She wasn't coming to you to like, help me out. Can you try and get me out of this? She was like, no, I'm only gonna be in your ship for a couple of days. I'm not gonna cause you any trouble. I'm gonna leave. And it's like every chance he got to say a little nod, a little like, I'm better than you, he did. And it was just like, but her heart wasn't into hurting anyone.
He knows. If you go way back to the beginning, he told Giorgio and Michael, let's not go on the artifact. Let's let's do some more research from afar. We're far away. Like, he was the voice of reason.
No, he
I
was.
just like go. So I think in the back of his head, he's like, I told you so. Like, if you all would have listened to me a long time ago, we would not be in this situation.
Okay, so I have to give you that. Okay, so yeah, so if they did listen to Saru, now granted, I won't say the Klingons may have never attacked. I just don't think they would have attacked us soon.
Yes.
Those 8,000 people would still be alive for another day if they had listened to him. But again, I want to say, for my girl Michael, if anyone had been in that ship and that protective gear on that artifact, they either would have died or they would have killed the Klingon themselves to survive. They had no other ifs, ands about it because she didn't mean to. She didn't mean to kill him, but it's self-defense. So I feel like, yes, if they had listened to Saru, you're right. They all would have been alive, and he's probably feeling a little salty about that. But at the end of the day, it just so happened to be her. She didn't cause it. It just happened to, she was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But if anyone else from Starfleet would have been in that suit, I think the outcome would have still been the same.
Did you notice that his tentacles also projected outward once Discovery blew up Glenn?
I didn't, but he did say his people predict death. And so maybe he must have realized that the thing was like subconsciously realized maybe the creature was on board the ship.
Yeah, the danger is coming. I don't know. He thinks that there's something more to meets the eye, so that's what's making me wonder. Yeah, for me, his sensory is similar to I don't know. I find that interesting to have these feelings about other life and death. I think that's an interesting type of character to have in a storyline that can predict death.
That's actually a really good catch because he can sense like death, and that creature just wants to kill. So I wonder if we're going to see a death in some upcoming episodes because that creature was beamed on board, and he like realized it, and he realized it without realizing it.
Yeah.
Okay, so final thoughts. What did you think of this episode?
It's a redemption. I feel like she's now in like a work release program. She gets this last chance. She better step up, and once again, she needs to behave. Like, I'm so interested in seeing. Now we're on Discovery. We're now on a new ship, a more like a bigger plot, because potentially this 4 creature could change everything. Everything. So yeah, there's a lot of directions they can take from here. So yeah, I'm intrigued.
Well, I am still intrigued, which makes me happy because sometimes shows make me bored, but this one has not. There's so much action happening. So I am very excited to see where this is going. I'm excited to see, I'm curious to see what Lucius Malfoy is going to be doing. And I think, I'm sorry, I might have to refer to him as Lucius Malfoy. I understand it. I'm so sorry. I know he's a whole different character, but he'll always be Draco's father to me. I'm curious to see what he's going to do. I'm curious to see if he's going to be like a different version of Michael, of doing the wrong thing for the right reasons, or is he doing the wrong thing for the wrong reasons? I'm very curious to see what his motive is behind his actions. Like, because whenever you see characters like him who have like this secret agenda, it always goes one of two ways. They're doing something secret to get to either help people in the end, but they just know it's not going to be approved, so they're trying to go the roundabout way, or they're just literally trying to look out for themselves. So I'm curious to see what his storyline is going to be, and I'm curious to see how people are going to treat Michael moving forward when she's on here. I wonder how Saru is going to treat her now that she's actually on the ship. feel like he's going to be jealous of her a little bit. And I feel like I'm going to get some more snarky comments where I'm going to be throwing something at my TV at him. He plays that character well. He plays it really well.
Poor thing. So Nicole is in a blue jumpsuit. Not a Starfleet uniform, but a blue jumpsuit, but without the Starfleet logo and badge. So I'm just all confused.
I did notice that. I felt like
form she had the Starfleet logo, but now she's sort of kind of Starfleet, but no logo.
I feel like it was a way of embarrassing her a bit more on the ship. Because one thing when she was in like the uniform, because I caught that too. I peeped that too. And then like the yellow jumpsuit with the Starfleet logo was to embarrass her. But to be back into blues and not be gifted with that with the badge was, I think, even more of a slap in the face. Because like to every day she had to like that's what I thought when I saw it. Because like every day she had to wake up in the yellow or the mustard jumpsuit and see the Starfleet badge and know that she'll never be up there with everyone else again. And to now be with everyone else again, but still have that distinguishing factor of, hey, you're here, but you're still not one of us. So it's like, I feel like it was even to make her stand out a bit more, which make her a little bit more. And I wouldn't be surprised if the captain did that on purpose to make her feel more ostracized. So maybe hopefully get her to do what he wanted her to do.
Right. I would like to also know if she has any restrictions.
Yeah, like she did when she first got there. Is she restricted to the room when she's not working?
Right.
Or was she have free reign to the ship?
Complete freedom across all of the ships, and we know she knows how to talk the computers out of almost everything. So how much room are they giving her, or are they still trying to confine her in little ways here and there? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think that we have discussed everything on this episode. What do you think? Okay, well, thank you for joining us, everyone. Please feel free to follow us, subscribe to, if you're YouTube, subscribe. If you're on a podcast platform, follow us, subscribe to us, listen to us. We're just two girls here trying to talk about our love of Star Trek and everything in between. So again, I'm Andrea.
And I'm Monica.
And live long and prosper.